Protect your team in this fight. You'll need each other.
Echoes on the world fueled the scramble to fill a power vacuum. Now everyone's fighting to consolidate its territory.
everywhere. The city needs you now more than ever.
After your victory over the Witness, civilians have been volunteering in droves. Unfortunately, they're not battle-hardened enough to hold this sector yet, but they're looking to you for inspiration. Show them what a lone guardian can do. so to speak.
That's such a nice idea. You guys are cute.
Black Ops 7 Carry Forward has just been cancelled by Activision. Following the recent backlash surrounding Black Ops 6 content carrying forward into Black Ops 7, Activision has just decided that operators operate.
Hello?
Yo,
Hey, man.
have you been playing yet?
No, I have not touched it at all.
You have a setup on the emulator?
I got the moo moo.
It actually runs crazy well.
About to see. Are you playing on roller, keyboard, and mouse?
I'm on controller. I didn't want to mess with I didn't know if they had wait, whenever I hit escape, it just tabs out of the emulator, so I don't know what the replacement is
Oh,
on keyboard for that, so I just haven't bothered. I mean, I only started 5 minutes ago or something.
gotcha.
I'm just doing the little campaign or little tutorial thing.
Cool.
It's pretty goofy, a little goofy, but pretty crazy for a mobile game.
I heard it's #1 on the App Store already.
Really?
Apparently. I don't know if
Oh,
that's
what?
true, but... YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the live channel for more content. And, yeah. Okay, goodbye. Dude, what have you been up to, man? I haven't heard from you in forever.
Oh, just been enjoying life out of prison
Yeah?
type shit. How about you?
I'm just stuck in prison, waiting for my get out of jail free card.
I'm surprised you never left. Surprised no one else left, honestly.
Stockholm Syndrome, the video game, bro.
Yeah, I was like, damn, you guys.
Wait, chat, can you guys hear? Or is the game sound not working? Please don't tell me my got. Oh.
Can you be in first person nonstop, or is it only when you ADS? Hey, Wolf, I'm pretty sure there's a grenade launcher over there. Explode! Explode them! So there's PvP in this game too, I think.
Dude, I heard we can play Gambit together.
There's Gambit.
Dude, my Elgato's not working, bro. My lore. My lore.
You
My lore!
recreated- Your what's not working?
My audio. Chat can't hear it. God damn it.
Oh, W's in the shot. Are you on a 2 PC setup?
Yeah.
Oh. Condolences. The jumps feel weird.
Chat, how did I fix this before? I had this problem a week ago and I don't remember how I fixed it.
Oh, I see it now. See the little, because it's weird because you're meant to play on mobile, so all the controls are on your screen. Settings, for example, is
A beacon of light
visible in the HUD at all times.
which brings us to the focus of our story. A community called Haven.
Oh, dude, we're so back.
Champion.
Crucible and Fireteam Ops rewards, and addressing feedback around raid rewards. Last week, while we covered a handful of improvements to scoring and portal rewards, we also announced plans to tune some rewards down in solo and pinnacle ops. Based on your feedback, we've revisited our approach to balancing progression, as we believe our previous approach was too conservative, and these nerfs would work against our goals of improving progression. To be clear, we believe these changes were the wrong call, right? All right. So what are we looking at? We want all activities in the portal, solo, or fireteam base to feel rewarding. We want our activities to contribute understandable and meaningful progress to your climb and power. As such, the following changes are being made immediately. Like, these are live now? Planned reductions to power earned for a given grade within solo ops have been reverted. Planned reductions of engrams earned in Encore, Starcross, and Whisper have been reverted. The plans changed for prime engrams to require decryption of the tower have been reverted. Oh, okay. So these aren't things in-game, but the stuff that they're going to change is not happening. All right. Wait, these aren't live now, right? I don't think they went live with these. No, these are just some of the stuff that they talked about in the TWAB last week. All right, that's good. Yeah, solo ops would be in the big one. But the question is are we going to get any buffs? All right, buffs, Fireteam Ops. When it comes to Fireteam Ops, we know that we have work to do. Here's a list of buffs we're planning on and some new changes that we're adding in response to your feedback. So an update 9.0.0.8, this is already live. Increased match made, Fireteam Ops limits across the board. So Expert 25%, Master 50%, and Grandmaster 75%. All right, so time limits, that's going to be good. I know that was a pain point for some stuff. Ash and Iron, increase the number of drops for Liminality, Inverted Spire, and Onslaught Widow's Court. Activity timers have been rebalanced for Solo, Pinnacle, and Fireteam Ops. Fireteam Ops have a greater value for speed versus killing all enemies. And there's new here, increase the number of drops for many more activities in Fireteam Ops. Our team is working on finalizing which specific activities we can buff up. We will share more details after we finish validating this change. New, removing unpopular mods like Grappler from Fireteam Ops matchmaking pool. This will still be selectable when customizing. All right, cool. Yeah, I kind of feel the Grappler, at least. Oh, what's up, Bungie? Thanks for stopping by. These are good changes. These are good changes. Yeah, Cross is out again, guys. NDA stuff. He'll be back. All right, yeah, I do like the Grappler being removed from the matchmaking pool. It was just, you'd want to run your build, and sometimes Grappler would get in the way, you know? So having that be a mod that you can just toggle on when you want, I'm cool with that. Buffs to the rewards are good for sure. I want to hear more on that, though. All right, buffs to portal rewards. The following rewards are good for mod that you can just toggle on when you want. I'm cool with that. Buffs to the rewards are good for sure. I want to hear more on that, though. All right, buffs to portal rewards. The following planned changes are focused on increasing rewards or improving rewards quality. Chance of prime engram drops per completion reward. Activities with more base completion rewards, such as Liminality and Inverted Spire, will provide more chances for prime engrams to drop. Okay, nice, nice. And new, we are working on creating more consistent portal reward experience for the upper power climb. As an Ash and Iron, this power will be 500 to 550. Ooh, we got to hear more about this. For those of you who haven't reached the 400 to 450 grind, myself included, I've watched it. We may be getting some improvements there. Even more buffs. Oh, man. All right, let's see what they got here. In last week's TWID, we provided a ton of information about various changes and data that drove them. Hidden within were several buffs, small and large, which we wanted to scoop out of that doc to more clearly highlight. So the Desert Perpetual Raid, weekly challenges added, improved gear tier drops, gear attunement added. Oh, okay, so we're going to be able to attune, because you can select rewards after, but now we're going to be able to select rewards going into the Desert Perpetual Raid. Am I understanding that right? Portal. The time bonus earned will grant 5% minimum score if you make the timer. Your account highest power will be used for reward score rather than equipped power. That's good. You will no longer need to wear your highest power gear while playing to get the highest score possible. Yeah, so for those who don't know, this is essentially whatever's on your character. Pretty sure it's on your character. Is it on your character, or is it your account as a whole? Because if it's your account like across the board, like on a different character, that's also really nice. Account-wide power? All right, good. Good. Yeah, I like that. Conquests are now replayable. W. Another W. In the long run, we're still going to be cautious about singular ops category or activity, about a singular ops category activity becoming the go-to for power leveling. We want Destiny to be a game where you want to hop in with friends to level, rather than declining an invite to spend time alone in a solo activity for the sake of progression. In this case, we understand that alternate experiences need to be brought up a bit more to help things feel good, rather than pushing other options down in the short term. We don't want players who generally want to play solo or pinnacle ops feel like they're getting caught by a stray nerf. Our current approach is to bring options up and make sure they feel good before we look at the problem children. Our hope is to continue to iterate and improve the progression through the power band with these increases to Fireteam Ops and the portal, as well as the combined with the improvements to Crucible we have made and the additional improvements to raid rewards coming in 9.1.0 as well. Now, onto regularly scheduled TWID. All right. So that's all. So this whole first section here is just responding to the last TWID and all the feedback there. What are you guys' thoughts? What are we thinking? What are we thinking? Okay, not great. I think we need to hear a little bit more about some of these changes. Like, I want to know what activities are going to be getting the buffs in Fireteam Ops. Increased drops for Liminality, Inverted Spire, and Widow's On, like Widow's Court. That sounds good. Like, those activities, I can't tell you how annoying it is to just hop into Liminality and it to take 30-40 minutes, depending what team you got, and it just be, and almost get nothing for it. I think those are good changes. They always seem vague. Some of these decisions, I think they're still cooking up. Like, there's buffs to portal power progression in the last rank. We'll see how that goes. But for those of you who have waited, 500 to 550 may be a lot better. It may be a lot better grind. So we'll see what the tier 5 situation looks like once Ashen Iron hits a couple weeks. Let's get to the main part of today's TWID, the new stuff. This week in Destiny, we're bringing back Heavy Metal with the new event pass and new rewards. Make sure you get your Drake tanks polished and Fallen Brigs prepped for combat. We also have more info on our goals for different class fantasies and some previews on the newest updates on weapon and armor exotic changes. Heavy Metal returns next week. Class identity, defining Warlocks, Titans, and Hunters. Oh, we're going to look at all classes today. Ooh, nice. Congrats on Destiny Rising's release, highlighting the newest art drop for Edge of Fate, PAX West Community Meetup, and tune in to a creator lore panel. Ooh. All right, Heavy Metal. The limited 3v3 PvP mode is back. Hop into your vehicles and work with your team to destroy your opponents. This will come with new legendary rewards, cosmetic rewards, legendary weapons, and an updated event home. Guardians who compete get the opportunity to unlock several rewards. A heavier duty emblem for achieving rank 5, a new sword holofoil for hitting rank 10. Oh, is that the sword that we thought was going to be in Arms Week? Is that the sword we're getting? Please tell me that's what we're talking about here. A new sword holofoil for hitting rank 10. Oh, is that the sword that we thought was going to be in Arms Week? Is that the sword we're getting? Please tell me that's what we're talking about here. A kinetic shotgun holofoil for hitting rank 15. And if you didn't earn it last time, you can get the Griffon Exotic Sparrow for achieving rank 14 throughout the duration of the event. All right, there's your Sparrow, guys. It shoots bullets. It's pretty nice. I don't know if this is getting like over skimmer for a lot of people. Still see a lot of people rocking the skimmer, but yeah, you can rock this if you want. What sword? The sword that they showed off in the Arms Week key art. Like, it was in the key art for Arms Week, or at least I'm pretty sure, like when it showed up in game, but it didn't drop in Arms Week. So I hope it's that sword, because it looks pretty good. Looks pretty nice. The game mode will last for 7 days, starting on September 2nd and ending on September 9th. So make sure you play it. Make sure you will play, as it will no longer be possible to claim these items after the event ends. Twitch drops will be available through play, as it will no longer be possible to claim these items after the event ends. Twitch drops will be available through the entirety of Heavy Metal. Watch a particular streamer on Twitch for 1 hour between 10 a.m. Pacific, September 2nd, and 10 a.m. Pacific on September 9th to receive the Mad Dog emblem. So just tune in, guys. You'll be able to watch, get this emblem. All right, class identity and fantasy in Destiny. When you boot up Destiny 2 for the first time, your Guardian class is the first choice you ever make as a Lightbearer. Do you want to be the floaty one holding the fireball, the slender one with the cape and blade, or the big one with the single monstrous shoulder piece? Each Guardian class has a unique fantasy that players assume as they play. When we talk about fantasy at Bungie, we often split the term into emotional fantasy and mechanical fantasy. To oversimplify, emotional fantasy is how you feel when you play, and mechanical fantasy is what you do when you play. When it comes to mechanical fantasy, or the gameplay role, what does the classes play in combat? Destiny's classes don't have the hard lines that some other RPGs have. This is particularly due to the demands of a fast-paced action game, but also because Guardians are tiny gods with the power to cross lines and break rules. We don't have a dedicated healer class or DPS class. Yes, we deliberately give certain classes more access to some keywords to reinforce their class identity, but rarely do we give them exclusive access to a keyword. After all, if all the classes players have equal access to everything, what's the point of having classes to begin with? Today we're going to dive deeper into class talk, class identity, and talk about our upcoming plans for each class. Some of these changes will come in release during the month of September, others in October, and others still in Destiny 2 Update 9.5 alongside the Renegades release and beyond. So without further ado, let's dive in. All right. We're about to get some juicy info. Let's see what the class identities are. So for Warlock, Warlocks weaponize the mysteries of the universe to sustain themselves and devastate their foes. The Warlock is the arcane spellcaster of the group. What they lack in strength and speed, they make up for in knowledge and sorcery. They're the best to perform complex magical rituals that persist in the world. Warlock's universal class abilities give access to health recovery and ally empowerment. So Warlock traits, battlefield control, arcane abilities, ally empowerment. Moving forward, we plan to do more to reinforce the Warlock identity. In the short term, we're working to enable deeper build crafting and finding ways to give Warlocks more ability uptime. The Empowering Rift change coming to Ash and Iron update is part of this. Longer term, we'd like to give Warlocks more mobile healing options and a passive benefit to match the other classes. Titans do bonus uncharged melee damage. Hunters have higher base movement speed. All right, there's some clarification there, I guess. Here are the upcoming Warlock changes we're working on. General, the following Warlock turrets will now count as grenades for stats and perks. Ooh, Ionic Sentry, Arc Soul, Hellion, Bleak Watcher, and Child of the Old Gods. Guys, this is good. This is very good. For any of my Warlock buddy build fans out there, you know that the grenades stacking with the abilities, this is good. We'll see how broken it gets, but having stuff count for grenades and stat perks is a big W. Empowerment Rift class abilities will now generate neutral game abilities energy over time. Kills while standing in an Empowering Rift will now generate bonus ammo progress. Plus 15 for special weapons and plus 10 for heavy weapons. Oh, okay. So we're going to get more bonus ammo standing in an Empowering Rift. And that's in addition to the other neutral game abilities they mentioned in like the last swap. We're really going to be pushed to like actually using Empowering Rift. Titans. Disciplined and proud, Titans are capable of both aggressive assaults and stalwart defenses. The Titan is the knight of the group. What they lack in magical ability and range, they make up for in strength and sustainability. They're the tip of the spear, creating cover to establish the front line. The Titan is not a traditional melee or tank class, but they have universal access to damage mitigation and increased melee damage. So for Titan traits, aggressive assault, damage mitigation, and artillery expert. Going forward, we'd like to give some more artillery expert flavor into the Titan's kit and give them more opportunities to flex their tactician muscles. In the short term, we're working on some updates to Behemoth abilities. Longer term, we'd like to make more updates to Word of Dawn and the Sentinel subclass, among other things. Here are the upcoming Titan changes we're working on. Howl of the Storm, stasis aspect. We will now grant 2 melee charges. Change the stasis crystal spawning pattern and added 4 more crystals. And for Bastion, Void aspect will now have a faster cooldown in PvP. I'm gonna be honest, guys. You Titans are gonna have to tell me what you think about this. Good, bad? I know personally I'm L, broken, mid. Okay, so I'm hearing from the Titans that we want a little bit more. I know Cross is gonna be happy about the Warlock changes. He's been running that a lot recently. But the 2 melee charges does sound interesting. And then I guess we'll just have to see what that spawn pattern looks like for the melee. All right, moving on to our hunters. Agile and daring. Hunters are quick on their feet and quicker on the draw. The hunter is the rogue of the group. What they lack in brute force and sorcery, they make up for in precision and agility. They're battlefield provocators, slipping into the enemy's ranks, leaving traps and causing chaos. They quickly find new angles to attack, from dividing the enemy's attention to make them more vulnerable. The hunter's class abilities give access to directional speed bursts and damage avoidance. So hunter traits: attack precision, infiltration, and damage avoidance. Going forward, we'd like to give hunters more abilities to help support their fire team. In the short term, we're working on giving Gunslinger an update. Longer term, we'd like to address the feedback that Night Stalker relies too much on invisibility, among other things. Here are some of the hunter changes we're working on. So on your mark, solar aspect. Stacks of on your mark now give a weapon stat instead of weapon handling and reload. Max of 40 weapon stack at 10 stacks. Rescale stack count to a max of 10 stacks. Precision hits now give 1 stack. Precision final blows now give 2 stacks. And precision final blows at 10 stacks now cure you instead of giving radiant. Golden Gun, Deadshot, Solar Super now refunds ammo on Golden Gun final blows instead of on.
What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick Gakis, and today we've got some brand Spankin' new Destiny 2 news, courtesy of the Bungie weekly update that has just gone live, revealing official information. And so, let's get started. Now, first things first, what's been going on this week for Destiny 2? Well, I would say the main thing is that Bungie backtracked. So, the last week's TWAB was extremely controversial and frankly pissed off like the entire Destiny 2 community because Bungie announced changes to the portal, and as part of those changes, solo ops and the best pinnacle ops were getting nerfed. And players were going, what the heck? We've been complaining about leveling taking too long, and you're nerfing the fastest ways to level up. This is the opposite of what the player base has been asking for. However, yesterday on the official Destiny 2 team Twitter account, they put out the following statement. We've been working through our player feedback from the previous TWID and reassessing our announced rewards updates for the portal. We will be reverting the following changes which were planned for Destiny 2 Update 9.1.0. First of all, planned reductions to power earned for a given grade within solo ops have been reverted, and planned reductions to engrams earned in Encore, Starcrossed, and Whisper have been reverted. So, obviously what happened is that Bungie saw my rant video and they were going, this guy's making non-stop sense, we gotta revert these changes. Now, in all seriousness, thank goodness Bungie did listen to the community. It looks like complaining worked. All the people who says, all you do is complain, it worked! But the big concern is that how the heck did this happen in the first place? How in the world did Bungie think it was a good idea to nerf solo ops when everyone still thinks non-stop farming solo ops doesn't feel fast enough in terms of leveling? But again, thank goodness that has been changed. Now, another thing that did happen is that on the Tuesday weekly reset, we have another bonus to the portal. This one is supposed to have increased drops for featured bonus loot activities. And, you know, I made a video going over it. I barely even know how this thing works. In the actual pop-up in-game, it says you only get the bonus loot for the first time. I have people on Twitter swearing they get it in other times, but I have video proof of myself very clearly not getting any bonus loot when I get, you know, a bonus loot item to drop. So, I mean, I literally did yesterday when the Mint Retrograde was featured in Starcrossed, I did a run of a full 3-man team. I got double Mint Retrograde, my teammate got double Mint Retrograde, my other teammate got 1! Despite that being the first run for all 3 of us. So like, what the heck is going on? It seems incredibly inconsistent, and I think this was a massive L from Bungie. All they needed to do is say, anytime you get the bonus featured loot for an activity, you just get 2, like every time, no matter what. And that is for sure not happening right now. In fact, breaking news on the situation, Bungie tweeted the following. While we continue to investigate reports that the double bonus focus modifier may not be correctly rewarding players as expected, we have swapped the portal activity bonus to the score multiplier accelerator for the remainder of this week, guys. So, there you go. It was indeed glitched, and now it's been replaced entirely, at least for the time being. What a disaster. Moving on from there, however, let's get into the brand new information within the TWID. And first of all, guys, Bungie talks portal and progression updates. So, they recount the changes they have made thanks to community feedback. Then they talk about the buffs coming to Fireteam Ops specifically. So, already live, they've increased the match-made Fireteam Ops time limits across the board, so you have more time to do it. In Ash and Iron, they're going to increase the number of drops for Liminality, Inverted Spire, and Onslaught Widow's Court. It should just be like pretty much every Fireteam Ops activity, to be honest. Activity timers have been rebalanced for Solo, Pinnacle, and Fireteam Ops. Fireteam Ops has a greater value for speed versus killing all enemies. That's actually huge. It's super annoying to have to, like, you know, get the boss down to the point where he spawns more enemies and have to go off and kill every single enemy to get an A tier, it seems. They've also, this is brand new, increased the number of drops for many more activities in Fireteam Ops. Our team is still working on finalizing which specific specific activities we can buff up, and we will share more details after we finish validating this change. Okay, so it's going to be more than just like liminality, inverted spire, etc. And another new one, they're removing unpopular mods like Grappler from Fireteam Ops matchmaking pool, though it will still be selectable when customizing. Okay, well, there you go. Moving on from there, guys, some buffs. Portal rewards. The following plan changes are focused on increasing rewards or increasing rewards quality. So, the chance for a prime engram drop per completion reward, activities with more base completion rewards, such as liminality and inverted spire, will provide more chances for prime engrams to drop. So that's actually huge. If you have the same chance for every activity, you're never going to do a Widow's Court for your prime, right? Because it just takes so long. You're going to do the quickest activity with the quickest turnover over and over again. And also, another new change, we are working on creating a more consistent power reward experience for the upper power climb in Ashen Iron. This will be power 500 to 550, so maybe not solely relying on prime engrams as the only way to level up from 500 to 550, because right now, no one enjoys the 400 to 450 power grind. And we have some more buffs as well, guys. They say in last week's TWID, we provided a ton of information about various changes and the data that drove them. Hidden within were several buffs, small and large, which we wanted to scoop out of that document and clearly highlight. So for the Desert Perpetual Raid, this is kind of funny, they're saying, we already said this, but you guys were so mad at us you weren't paying attention. Okay. So, weekly challenges added, improved gear teardrops, gear attunement added. That's cool. Where's my power progression? Like, that's the thing, Bungie. If I'm going from 500 to 550 and the epic raid doesn't advance my power, that's a problem. Moving on from there, doesn't advance my power, that's a problem. Moving on from there, for the portal, the time bonus earned will grant a 5% minimum score if you make the timer. Your account's highest power will be used for the reward score rather than equipped power. That's great. You will no longer need to wear your highest power gear when playing to get the highest score possible. That's actually a very good change. Conquests are now replayable. That was also, something that they said, and then everyone was so mad they forgot about, but that's another great change. In the long run, we are still going to be cautious about singular ops category or activity becoming the go-to for power leveling. We want Destiny to be a game where you can hop in with friends to level rather than declining an invite to spend time in a solo activity for the sake of progression. That's fair, and that's a fair thing to want. Hey Bungie, here's my idea. You know how you have fire team power, where the highest power person in the fire team will give their power to the rest of the fire team? Have fire team bonus rewards. So if we're playing liminality and someone has 3 bonus rewards and everyone else has none, everyone gets 3. And then at that point, you're just hopping around all these different activities. Bro, I've got 4 on Onslaught. Let's do an Onslaught. I've got this on this. And you're just hopping around following, whoever has the highest amount of bonus loot drops. I don't see any problem in that. And that would also make leveling a lot faster. But hey, what do I know? Anyways, first of all, heavy metal is back in the Crucible. That's right. It should launch this upcoming Tuesday. So, a heavier duty emblem you're going to get for achieving rank 5, a new sword holofoil for hitting rank 10, and a kinetic shotgun holofoil for hitting rank 15. So, I think there's 2 new legendary weapons coming with heavy metal. That's actually pretty exciting. And they say if you didn't earn it last time, you can also get the Griffin Exotic Sparrow, which remember is the first and only vehicle that can shoot back in Destiny 2. So, they say the game mode will last for 7 days from September 2nd to the 9th. And also, Twitch drops will be enabled throughout the entirety of Heavy Metal. So if you watch a participating streamer on Twitch for 1 hour between 10 a.m. Pacific on September 2 and 10 a.m. Pacific on September 9th, you'll receive the Mad Dog emblem. And your boy is going to be streaming Heavy Metal as soon as it comes out. Twitch.tv/CactusHD. That's actually sick. I think, like, from some of what we've seen about these weapons, the sword and the shotgun look actually extremely interesting, guys. So they then go on to say class fantasy in Destiny, talking about when you boot up Destiny for the first time, your Guardian class is the first choice you ever make as a light bearer. Do you want to be the floaty one holding the fireball, the slender one with the cape and the blade, or the big one with the single monstrous shoulder piece? So here are some of the changes they're making. They say today we're going to dive deeper into class identity and talk about our upcoming plans for each class. Some of these changes will come in the releases during the month of September, others in October, and others still alongside Renegade. So for Warlock, they say the Warlock is the arcane spellcaster of the group. What they lack in strength and speed, they make up for in knowledge and sorcery. They're the best at performing complex magical rituals that persist in the world. The Warlock's universal class abilities give them access to health, recovery, and ally empowerment. So the Warlock traits: battlefield control, arcane abilities, ally empowerment. Moving forward, they want to, reinforce those. So they say, in general, the following Warlock turrets will now count as grenades for stats and perks: Ionic Sentry, Arc Soul, Hellion, Bleak Watcher, and Child of the Old Gods. Massive change, guys. Absolutely massive. Which means if I have 200 grenade, my Hellion will be getting the bonus for grenade damage. So my Hellion will be doing 65% more damage. My Arc Soul will be doing 65% more damage. Guys, that is absolutely massive. Does this also mean that if my Hellion or Arc Soul gets kills, if I have a weapon with Demolitionist, it'll just auto reload that? Again, that's insane. The possibilities in build crafting with this change are going to be massive. Then for Empowering Rift, your class ability, it will now generate neutral game ability energy over time. Kills while standing in Empowered Rift will now generate bonus ammo progress. You can see plus 15% for specials, 10% for heavies. Moving on from there, guys, for the Titan, gonna be a bit quicker at describing these. So they say it's aggressive assault, damage mitigation, artillery expert. Going forward, we'd like to get some more artillery expert flavor in the Titan's kit. So for the Howl of the Storm, which is a stasis aspect, will now grant 2 melee charges. And they've changed the stasis crystal spawn pattern and added 4 more crystals. That is a lot more crystals. And then for Bastion, the void aspect, it will now have a faster cooldown in PvP. Actually, that's not true. As you can see, Bungie provided an update for this. They meant to say PvE, a faster cooldown in PvE. Okay, anyways, guys, moving on from there, for the Hunter traits are attack, precision, infiltration, and damage avoidance. Going forward, we'd like to give Hunters more abilities to help them support their fire team. So for On Your Mark, the solar aspect, stacks of On Your Mark now give weapon stat instead of weapon handling and reload, and the max of 40 weapons at 10 stacks. That's actually insane. Yeah, you get 160 weapons. That's going to ease the build crafting. Activate On Your Mark and potentially get up to 200 weapons. For PvP, that is insane. Then they've rescaled the stack count to a max of 10 stacks. The precision hits now grant 1 stack. Precision final blows give 2 stacks. And precision final blows at 10 stacks now cure you instead of giving radiant. Woo, that's really good, guys. Then Golden Gun, Deadshot, the Solar Super, now refunds ammo on Golden Gun final blows instead of on ignitions. Now extends super duration on Golden Gun final blows. Duration gain diminishes with final blows, grants less in the Crucible. For Marksman Dodge, class ability now reloads all weapons on activation. Now picks up nearby bricks on activation. That's actually not bad either. And for the wrap up, they say that we love all of Destiny's classes equally, and we're dedicated to making sure that each one has a chance to shine. We don't want any of our classes to be viewed as the DPS class. All 3 classes should be capable of roughly the same damage output. That said, there will always be certain builds that are more effective than others in different contexts. In the future, we're interested in doing more to make each class's identity more distinct. Very interesting changes there. Really excited for the Warlock changes for sure, guys. Moving on from there, they have a new art blast on the ArtStation article, which is linked in the TWAB, which is linked in the description down below, guys. They have a PAX West cosplay meetup. You can see that right here. And they also have a creator lore panel.
I feel it now. Ghosts. People who still exist but shouldn't. Mistakes never fixed. Paths that never crossed. People who once should have felt familiar and warm. Still feel distant. Artificial silence.
soon. I know she needs to follow up on this craziness with the Nine. I just hope she doesn't get lost out there. Like Zavala did in Traveler. He hasn't been the same since.
what is going on. That's true.
None of it matters.
I don't love you anymore.